How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Thanks for stopping by today. My name is Brian Vandy, and today we will be making an 80s style retro grid thing in Adobe Illustrator. Go ahead and throw up our final copy here so you can get a taste of what we're working with. And from there, let's just jump into it. So go ahead and open your Adobe Illustrator here. And we're just gonna go ahead and make a blank canvas. So go to File, New, make a blank canvas for you. Make width and height whatever you prefer. I'm just gonna make mine 2000 by 2000. And then I'm gonna go down here to Advanced, and I'm actually gonna change the color mode to RGB because I feel like it makes deeper blacks than CMYK, and that's what I'm going for. So RGB color it is, hit OK, and now we're left with our blank canvas. So we're gonna go ahead and make a background by selecting the rectangle tool, and since my artboard is a square, I can just hold shift and come to this top left intersection point and drag it all the way down to the top right, and we have a white rectangle. Now, white doesn't show up the best on a white artboard, so let's go ahead and change that background color. You can make this whatever you like. The traditional look is black. That's what I'm going to go with because that's the type of look I'm going for today. So we got our black rectangle as our background. Let's go ahead and lock that layer down so we don't mess with it as we're going forward. Then let's create a new layer, and this is going to be our grid layer. So head on over to the line segment tool, click and hold. That'll pull up some extra tools here. Select the rectangular grid tool second from the bottom, and then once that's selected, you can click anywhere on your screen to pull up the options. Now we get to change the default width and height for our grid. I usually do the same as my artboard. It just makes it easier to manipulate that way. So 2000 by 2000 for me, and then horizontal and vertical dividers is dependent on the size of your artboard. Generally they're going to be the same number, so for me I'm doing 2000 by 2000. Good number for me is going to be 35 by 35. Feel free to experiment however you want. Make some art, guys, make it look good. Hit OK, and now we're left with this two-dimensional grid here. So you can hit V on your keyboard or go on over to our selection tool, and we can drag to center or hit the alignment tools up here. Just make sure that's centered. And now we have this grid. We can't see it very well because it's black against our black background. So let's go ahead and change that color. Change the stroke color to whatever you'd like. I'm gonna go ahead and change mine to a nice kind of blue purple looking color here. Looks good, fits the theme. Perfect. Stroke, gonna make that a little thicker so we can see our lines here. So 3, that looks about good. So now we're left with this grid. It's not exactly what we're looking for. So let's go ahead and change that up here. So select your grid once again, and then go on over to the transform tool on the left side here. So hit that. That'll bring up an additional menu with some extra tools here. Hit the second one from the bottom. That's going to be our perspective distort tool. So hit that. Now let's go over to this top left corner and click and drag into the middle. Now this will let us change, I guess, how extreme we want our grid. So just do what you think looks right for you. I'm gonna go ahead and make mine pretty extreme here, so because I like it extreme. So I'm gonna bring it in to about there. Looks good. From here, we're gonna click from the top. We're gonna use our selection tool once again. Click our top anchor right in the middle. We're gonna bring this down a little more. This is another way you can mess with the perspective of your grid. Bring it to whatever looks cool for you. Go ahead and bring mine to about right there. Looks good for me. Now you see we have all these different edges here. Really don't want edges. It's not really what the look calls for, I guess. So let's go ahead and get rid of those by making it a lot wider, and then we can worry about the top edge later on. So let's go ahead and try 15,000, see where that gets me. That gets me really wide, too wide actually. 12,000 is a little narrow, so 13 looks about perfect. So from here, once the sides are cut off of your artboard, then you could drag this up a little bit or drag it down and mess with the perspective a little more. You can manipulate it a little more from here, and then once you're happy with how it looks, we can go on to the next step, which is getting rid of our top edge here. If you like the edge, you can keep it. It's up to you on how you want the look. So to get rid of that edge, to make it a nice smooth gradient, we're gonna lock this layer down, make another new layer, and then we're gonna head on over to our rectangle tool here. So now for this guy, we're gonna go ahead and make it a little wider than our artboard, and then about that tall for what I'm working with here. So from here, let's see. Our edge is colored. We don't want that. That's not what we want. Doesn't look good. So we're gonna go ahead and select the red cross down here to get rid of that. And then we're gonna select our fill color to be our main color. So hit the fill box, and that way it'll put the fill color on top of stroke color. So we're selecting the fill essentially. So now head on over to our gradient tool on the right side and select linear on the type options. So now we're left with this ugly little gradient here. We can go ahead and change the angle because we want this to be vertical. So hit -90. That way it puts the left color of your gradient on top and the right on the bottom. Makes sense. From there, we're gonna choose a color that matches our background. So my background's black. Now I could do that, but notice it can't figure it out because Illustrator doesn't like the color black for some reason. So from here, you gotta hit this drop down menu, go to RGB, and then from here we can get rid of our reds, greens, and blues, and then do the same thing for our second color, and there it is. So the difference we're gonna make for our second color, in order for this gradient to be a gradient, you're gonna change the opacity to 0, and that way we have this nice smooth gradient. You can't really see it because it's too high up. Let's go ahead and move that down. Let's see, move it a little above our actual grid here, so feel free to zoom in for that. Now we can drag this down to make it perfect here. Alright, perfect. So zoom back out. That's already looking pretty good, but I'm gonna manipulate it a little more. That way I can achieve the look I'm going for. So select your rectangle, and then you can mess with this gradient slider over here. I think that's looking pretty good. So once you export it, depending on how you export it, it'll cut off the edges, so we don't need to worry about any of that in Illustrator. But as far as this tutorial goes, that looks like that's about it. Again, I'll throw up that final product for you guys to look at here, and that's about it for this one. So see you guys in the next one. Thanks for stopping by. Again, I'm Brian Vandy. If I helped you out, drop a like, drop a subscribe, make me happy, if I made you happy. So thank you guys very much. See you all in the next one.